time for kind of a special bargain game hunter. I went to GameStop today because I needed to pick up the discs for two games I picked up in a previous episode that they didn't give me the discs for, and I left with a huge stack of games. But I have a story to tell. Okay, so here is kind of the background on this. So you might recall when I did my big game hunt, the first big one of 2025, I went to GameStop, I traded in all the games that I picked up from pawn shops and got like $220 in credit. And I burned pretty much all of that credit on a big stack of games. Well, two of the games on PS5, they actually forgot to include the discs. So I called GameStop later in the week and told them, hey, just so you're aware, there were a couple games that I bought that they did not include the games for. I need to go pick those discs up. And they left a note and put them aside for me. So today, I decided to go back to that GameStop and pick up those two discs. I also had a couple other things I wanted to do. I had three games that were essentially doubles because I either had them on a different platform or I think I had all of them on a different platform. So because I recently picked up the PS5 version of Black Sad, I traded in the PS4 copy. I also picked up the Xbox copy of Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition so I could trade in my PS4 copy. And then on top of that, I accidentally bought a PS4 copy of Scribblenauts, the Mega Pack, when I already had it on Xbox. So I traded all three of those in. I also returned my copy of Command & Conquer 3 Kane's Wrath because I actually had that one already. Now, fortunately for me, it was a copy in a generic case, so I kept the version with the case and returned the one that didn't have the case. And then my intention was just to take care of that, go into GameStop, maybe pick out like one or two retro games, call it a day. But there were some complications to that. Well, for starters, I looked around at the retro selection because my old GameStop actually has a dedicated retro section. And it did get reloaded from when I was there on Monday. On top of that, and this was the catalyst, apparently shortly before I got there, somebody traded in a massive collection of PS2 and PS1 games. And when I say massive collection, I mean there were stacks on stacks on stacks of pretty obscure, I mean there were some commons, but like a lot of them were pretty obscure, like JRPGs. There was a bunch of really interesting stuff on PS2, PS1. So of course when I saw those, I'm like, well, that might change my direction a bit. So I actually added an extra game to the return pile, and that was Arc Runner, which was a game I bought mostly because I wanted to get that discount or the extra trading credit when I traded all those games in. But it didn't include the disc, and I'm like, I don't care enough really to play this, so I returned it because I figured I'd rather have that $20. Now, I was going to return this game, which is Gloomhaven on the PS5. Now, I'm not including this in the final recap because this was from a previous episode. But here's an interesting thing. I couldn't return it because if you look at the front of this game, it says Gloomhaven on the PS5. But when you look on the back, it says Gloomhaven on the PS4. So apparently it was rung up as the PS4 version, and because it was rung up as the PS4 version, they weren't allowed to return it. Okay? I don't understand that. So I'm kind of stuck with this game because it was put on the receipt as the PS4 version of Gloomhaven. I mean, that's fine. I picked this up for a reason. It does look interesting, so... But that's weird. I don't understand why that was the case, but okay. So here's the story. So while I was in GameStop, there were all these piles behind the counter of PS2 and PS1 games. Now, I didn't film any of this, and I wish I did, but the main reason why I didn't film it was I wasn't expecting there to be any kind of interesting thing happen. I literally thought I was just going to go in, return a couple games, maybe pick up a couple new things and leave. Simple transaction. It was not that. So, the first thing I looked at was there was a big stack of PS1 games, and I'm like, well, you don't see PS1 that often. And I saw some of the spines, and they were all like heavy hitter JRPGs. They had Parasite Eve 1 and 2. They had Lunar. They had Legend of Gaia. There were a lot of really nice looking PS1 JRPGs. So naturally, I was real excited to pick those up. So I was looking through them when there was a guy waiting on the other side of the counter who started chiming in, like, hold on, I want those. I was here first. I wanted those. And I'm like, hold the phone. Like, I mean, I get if you might have been waiting, but like, why didn't you get them then? Like, I'm sure you could have mentioned like, hey, can I look at those? 'Cause, like, if he was looking at them, that's one thing, but he wasn't. Like, he was just kind of chilling by the counter. And I could tell right off the bat, because this guy also had a pile of the PS2 games that were, his pile. He was a reseller, like very clearly a reseller, because when he got the PS1 games, he was looking them up price by price. So he had his phone out, he was looking up stuff. I'm like, yeah, he's literally getting these to resell. And then on top of that, he had a very big pre-order of the new Pokemon set, Prismatic Evolutions, that was kept for him in the back. And like, he was bragging about how he has like 15 ETBs. Like, if you don't know, that set is pretty much impossible to find at release. So he was clearly a reseller just trying to make as much money as he could. And like, that kind of sucks. But I mean, not much I could do at that point, because I mean, he was there first, but I don't understand, like, if he was there first, why didn't he just add those the PS1 games that he wanted to his pile? And not, like, if I was looking at them, I feel I should have had first dibs. Just saying. I had them in my hand. I wanted to buy them. Just because he claimed, oh, I was here first, like, that shouldn't matter. Like, if I had them in my hand and I was ready, if I wanted to buy them, I should have been allowed to buy them. I'm just saying. So, essentially what I did was I went through all the PS2 games, picked out a few that I wanted. I did get a couple PS1 games. I almost grabbed. I ended up not, because it's an expensive PS1 game. That was Legend of Gaia, because it was like $38, and I'm like, I don't want to spend that much right now. So what I ended up doing is mostly just grabbing a bunch of cheaper PS2, 360, and one big game, which I will talk about because there's more story to that. So I got a nice little stack, essentially with the return. With the 2 returns plus the trade-in. Oh, and another thing to note is this was during GameStop's like double trade week or double pro week. So essentially the trade-in bonus was, instead of being 10%, it was 20%. And then instead of getting 5% off of pre-owned games, it was 10%. So you actually save more. So this was a good week to buy a bunch of pre-owned games. So yeah, I grabbed 3 games off the shelf that I just wanted, and then I also threw in a few PS2 games from the piles in back, and 1 big game. So let's just go ahead and go over those, shall we? So the first game, and this is one that was on the shelf that I decided to grab because it was like $5. After the discount, ended up being $4.50. Mod Nation Racers on the PS3. It's a racing game. I didn't have it. It was cheap. Complete, good shape. Apparently a lot of these retro games were traded in by the same person, and that person took really good care of their games, so pretty happy about that. But anyway, this is gonna be a quick episode, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go through prices now. I paid $4.50 for this, and it is worth $10, so pretty solid there. Next one, Red Alert 3 on the 360. This has been on my list for a while, and not only that, this one came in absolutely prestigious copy. Everything is mint. It comes with the poster. Everything is in here. And then like the disc looks like it's never been played. It's flawless. I think there was like maybe some very, very light scratching, but not much. So yeah, very happy to have this. Now I'm starting to get a decent RTS collection on the 360, and now I have another good one. This one I paid credit. Oh yeah, because some of these I have credit. So the first one was also credit. This one, $7 out of pocket. It's worth 10. Dungeon Siege 3 on the 360. This is just a game you don't see that often. It's not exactly an expensive game. Also super complete. Came with a bunch of pamphlets and the manual. The disc is in good shape. Also an RPG made by Obsidian. A lot of people forgot that. This one I paid $6 and it's worth $6. So this one I broke even on, but that's okay. Now let's get to the stuff from behind the counter. And these were some pretty darn good pickups because these are not games you see very often. First one, Extermination on the PS2. Now, I believe, yeah, this came out in 2001. So this was a very early PS2 game. Looks like an action survival horror game. First party, published by Sony. There's the Sony logo. Pretty uncommon. It's not a game you see super often. And again, complete, really good condition. So this guy knows how to take care of his games. This one I paid $9 out of credit. It's worth 16. Good pickup there. Drive 3er on the PS2. I've never played Drive 3er. I've heard it's okay. Like some people really hate it. Some people really like it. Again, really good condition. The only thing that, oddly enough, the only thing it's missing is technically this is not a original PS2 case. This is like a cheaper case, but the important parts are here. The manual, the game, and the actual cover art are all original, so this counts as complete, I'd say. Drive 3er, I paid 7, it's worth 10. This one was another one where I technically have a way to play this game, but this is the only one that came out on PS2, and I figured it was worth a snag. DOA 2 Hardcore on the PS2. This is Dead or Alive 2. I have the Xbox version, which is included for Dead or Alive Ultimate, but now I have the original home release, which was on PS2. Again, very nice, complete copy. Figured it was worth a grab. So I paid $9. This one is worth 15. And then here's the big score. And this one has, no. So with the PS1 games, obviously the reseller guy took almost everything. I asked him if he had stuff he didn't want. And he originally said he wasn't interested in Legend of Gaia and then this game. And I was on the fence about this one, but when I saw the price it was marked at, I'm like, that's a pretty good price. Even if it's a game that I can technically play on another platform, I think it's worth getting on this version, especially for how good condition it is. On the way home, I noticed something interesting, and we'll talk about that in a second. So, we have Star Ocean, the second story on the PlayStation. So this is the original version of Star Ocean, the second story on PlayStation. You can obviously play the remake on PS5 and Switch that came out. It's a pixel art version. This is the original version of it. But here's the thing that's interesting. Obviously, you see the price, $9.99. But here's the more interesting part. If you look at what it says Star Ocean Till the End of Time. Now, if you don't know, Star Ocean Till the End of Time is a PS2 game. So this was a completely wrong, they put in the wrong game, essentially. So it was supposed to be a completely different game. They put in Till the End of Time, which is a much cheaper Star Ocean game, not second story. So I only paid like $8 for this, I think, in credit, $8. Now, this game is worth $33 because the actual Star Ocean, the second story, is a pretty valuable JRPG. And again, comes complete, both discs, manuals in a really good spot. It has a little bit of a fold, but not much. The discs are in very, very good shape. Again, you don't see PS1 JRPGs that often, especially in a game store like GameStop, in this good condition. So even though, yes, I do have the remake on PS5, I figured it was worth a snag to pick up Star Ocean to the End of Time. So there you go. This is a weird episode because it was literally basically done in one take, and it was one stop that I wasn't planning on doing, honestly. But I figured the story was interesting enough and the pickups were interesting enough that it was worth it. If you want to see more of these kind of like one-shot episodes, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, I ended up paying, after the trade-ins and the return and all the promos and stuff, I paid $17 out of pocket for all of that. And I got my Gloomhaven game that I've been waiting on for a while. So, pretty happy. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Bargain Game Hunter. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, that way you know when new videos drop. We'll see you on the next episode of the Bargain Game Hunter. Bye.